Hello again. So you made it to the last part of the lecture. And here I just want to show you another example that you've all seen and that I mentioned before, which is Google's knowledge graph. So now you understand a bit more about where this came from, the history, RDF, Freebase, and there is a video that goes back to, I think, 2012, when they first published their knowledge graph, when they integrated it into their search engine. So again, this is a rather short, but it's a very nice video. Again, this is now almost 10 years old, but it shows you how they arrived at the idea of using knowledge graphs for their search engine. And because that's the last thing, now let me just summarize what we've done so far. We talked about how to build applications using knowledge graphs. So we've seen the technical part earlier, RDF, RDFS, queries, and so on. And now this time we looked at how to create the graphs from different formats. We looked at how to design graphs, how to build them from relational databases, how to create and connect graphs from text documents, and then on top, using these graphs within various applications. So the idea is that the graphs with their common data format allows us to connect different forms of knowledge with each other. It can be knowledge that's originally in graph form, but it can also be knowledge in a database or in a text document. And then build an AI application on top of that, something like an intelligent assistant, question answering system, and so on. This is also something you'll do in the project starting very soon. Just to talk a bit about references and things to read, please go through this chapter 9, which is a quick overview on linked open data. I mentioned 2 other books earlier. There's a lot of references, but don't panic. You don't have to read all of it. Some of them are complementary. So there are 2 nice books on linked data. There's this one here, and this book you can download as a PDF when you're logged in through Concordia. And this other book here that I mentioned earlier as well, it's also very nice. I think you can read using the Safari books online. You can also read briefly about the Open Graph Protocol in this one chapter here. Again, this is the book, the developer's guide, that you can also download as a PDF. So these are the other 2 books on linked data that I mentioned, and then there are various references for the other techniques that we talked about. So this is something you should look at on an as-needed basis. Let's say you want to embed structured data in the web, you can read a bit more about RDFA and the tools that go with it. Similarly, I mentioned there is a description here, a publication where they explain the DBpedia release cycle. This is a newer version. Obviously, they improved the release process over the year. So this is describing the latest iteration of the DBpedia release cycle. So if you're interested, you can look through this publication and get a bit more idea on what's going on technically for making this work, on how to transform Wikipedia into the DBpedia knowledge graph. Okay, so much for this week's lecture. Again, have a look at the application that you're all using in Google, and then I'll see you again in the next week. See you then.